The little girl's voice was calm, almost careful, but the words she spoke sliced through the crowded charity hall like a blade. "Ma'am, I know that missing child." Time seemed to stop. Conversations faded into silence, cameras froze mid-click, and Eleanor Whitmore, the woman who owned half the skyline outside those glass walls, felt her knees weaken. For 10 years she had paid investigators, funded searches, and plastered her daughter's face on billboards across cities. For 10 years, hope had slowly turned into a quiet private grief she carried behind perfect makeup and tailored suits. And now, standing in front of her, was a girl no older than 16, with worn shoes, nervous eyes, and a certainty in her voice that made Eleanor's heart forget how to beat. Eleanor Whitmore was known to the world as a ruthless businesswoman with a sharp mind and an even sharper reputation. But long before she became a headline, she was just a mother who once let go of her daughter's hand in a crowded train station for a single moment. That moment swallowed her entire life. Her 5-year-old daughter, Lily Whitmore, vanished without a trace. No witnesses, no leads that lasted. Only a small pink bracelet found near a bench and a grief that aged Eleanor faster than any hardship ever could. She built an empire afterward, not out of ambition but out of desperation, believing money could fix what the universe had broken. The charity gala that night was meant to fund missing children's shelters. Eleanor attended every year, giving speeches filled with controlled emotion, always careful not to crack in public. She had learned how to survive by never letting herself fully feel. That was why the interruption shocked everyone. The girl had slipped past security during Eleanor's speech. She didn't shout, she didn't cry. She simply stood there and spoke the truth as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "My name is Nora Hale," the girl said, hands clenched at her sides. "I grew up in foster homes. But when I was younger, I lived with a woman who had another girl. Her name was Lily. She used to cry at night and say her real mom would find her." Eleanor's breath shattered. The name echoed in her ears, not as sound, but as memory. The way Lily pronounced her LS softly, the way she hummed when she was scared. Eleanor stepped down from the stage without thinking, ignoring the murmurs, the flashing cameras, the security guards frozen in confusion. She stood inches away from Nora, searching her face for lies, for attention-seeking tricks, but found only fear and honesty. "How do you know her last name?" Eleanor whispered. Nora swallowed. "I didn't. But the woman who kept us. She called Lily the rich one. She said Lily's mother would pay anything to get her back. When Lily got sick, the woman panicked. One day Lily was gone. She told me Lily had been sent away. I was 9. I never forgot her." The room dissolved around them. Eleanor felt something inside her finally break, something she had been holding together for a decade. Tears streamed down her face, unstoppable and unashamed. This wasn't proof. This wasn't closure. But it was the first real thread of truth she had been handed in 10 years. The search reopened within hours. Not because Eleanor demanded it, but because Nora testified. Locations, names, faces Eleanor had never known existed. The woman who had taken Lily was already dead, but records led them to a rural clinic, then to an adoption agency shut down for illegal practices. Days blurred into nights. Eleanor barely slept, terrified to hope, terrified not to. Then came the call. A nurse in another state remembered a young girl brought in years ago, weak and feverish, registered under a false name. The child had survived. She had been adopted legally after months of recovery. She had a new life, a new name. Eleanor sat in silence after the call ended. This time she didn't cry, she shook. Because finding Lily didn't mean reclaiming her. It meant facing the possibility that her daughter might not want to be found. The meeting happened in a quiet room at a family services center. Eleanor arrived early, hands trembling, rehearsing 1,000 apologies Lily had never heard. When the door opened, a young woman walked in, 18 now, tall, cautious, with eyes that mirrored Eleanor's own. "My name is Grace Miller," the girl said softly. Eleanor stood slowly. "I named you Lily," she replied, voice breaking, "but you don't have to be that person anymore." Grace studied her for a long moment. Then she pulled a faded pink bracelet from her pocket. "I kept this," she said. "I always knew someone would come back for me. They didn't run into each other's arms. They didn't collapse like the movies promised. They sat. They talked. They cried in turns. They learned each other carefully, like strangers afraid to break something fragile and precious." Nora watched from the hallway, heart pounding. She hadn't done this for reward. She hadn't even believed it would end this way, but Eleanor found her later, held her hands and said, "You didn't just reunite a family. You gave my daughter back her past and me my future." Eleanor paid for Nora's education, yes, but more than that, she stayed in her life. Because heroes don't disappear after the miracle. Months later, Eleanor stood at another event. This time Grace stood beside her. No speech prepared, no armor worn. Eleanor looked at the crowd and said, "I searched for my daughter for 10 years, but the truth is, sometimes hope comes from the least expected voice in the room. Listen when someone speaks. You never know what miracle is asking to be heard." And in the front row, Nora smiled, knowing that a single sentence spoken with courage had changed 3 lives forever.